Yo, what's good with you? Back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve your skill-based matchmaking. At least I hope so. In this video, we're going to be doing a review for the Mg81. This is a brand new BR5 machine gun for the German army, and much in the same vein as the Aragon SMG from my last video, there seems to be a decently sized contingent of people who question the addition of another fast-firing machine gun for a faction that already has the Mg42 and the Mg34 doing most of the dirty work, and quite well, I might add. But before we try and validate and critique the existence of this gun, we gotta take a look at the stats and the lore behind it, and then we'll get into how it feels using the gun from base level to fully upgraded, and lastly, we'll end off with some encapsulating thoughts, maybe some comparisons and analogies, and a rating 1 to 10. Let's get into it. So first and foremost, looking at the description for the gun, they took a minimalistic approach and simply stated that this is an aircraft machine gun converted for use by infantry units, and to that I would say no shit, Sherlock. I'm literally about to equip and use it right now on my machine gun squad, so obviously it is usable by infantry units as well. But trying to be more descriptive than them per usual, this was a belt-fed machine gun designed by Mauser and made to replace the older drum magazine-fed Mg15. The gun was also designed in a way to be a more simplified aircraft-focused version of the successful Mg34. But that's not to say that, they didn't want the Mg81 to be used on the ground at all. We should honestly be happy that they didn't put the Mg81Z variant in the game, which is a twin barrel version of the same weapon, which would honestly be diabolical if implemented, so I see that they took a more reserved approach implementing the single barrel version. Anyways, this gun was invented in 1938 to 1939 and produced from 1940 all the way up until 1945. Moving into our stats, we are going to be getting a maximum damage coming in at 12 per shot, and even out to 100 meters you'll still be doing a maximum damage of 10.8 per shot. Mind you, this is a machine gun, so every time you pull the trigger you're sending at least 15 bullets downrange in half a second, so you can consider this an incineration tool as long as you can actually hit your target. The bullet velocity on the Mg81 is going to be par for the course in comparison to most other German machine guns, coming in at 750 meters per second. So essentially, once you get past medium range, which I would consider that to be about 40 to 70 meters, you'll have to start doing some slight to considerable shot leading to hit your targets, but at least you'll have a ton of bullets to correct yourself if you start off bad. Most notably on this gun is going to be the fire rate, coming in at a faction fastest 1600 rounds per minute, which goes to show that this machine gun was indeed designed for aircraft use by default. Crazy to think that they actually paired 2 to 3 of these together for infantry use, but more importantly, the thing to note here is that you will be still getting a limited 100 round belt like the Mg42 100. So if you felt that you ran out of bullets pretty fast with the Mg42, this feeling will be even more compounded with the Mg81. So that being said, I do highly recommend shooting in bursts when it makes sense to do so. Another neat stat that's going to be above average for the Mg81 is going to be the reload speed, which is going to be clocking in at 5.4 seconds, which is only beat out by lower tier machine guns in the German tech tree that people, typically wouldn't use once they get into the BR4, BR5 range. Unfortunately, due to the nature of higher fire rate weapons, we will be suffering with a below average shot deviation at 55, so those bullets will be feeling like they're going all over the place the longer you hold down the trigger, but that can be tightened up a bit once you invest some time in upgrading the corresponding squad associated with the weapon and spending some extra silver as well for upgrading the weapon as well, which we'll talk about in a bit. Recoil on the Mg81 is exactly the same as the Mg15, which is funny since it was intended to replace that weapon, but we are looking at a vertical stat of 23 and a horizontal stat of 15 for the recoil. And I know those numbers might not look that bad on paper, but I'm putting them in yellow because I want to emphasize how important it is to control the weapon's recoil as much as you can, especially from a standing or unmounted position, because if you don't, the recoil will control you and it will be pretty bad. The main thing you want to focus on is pulling downward, because whether the horizontal recoil pulls the gun left or right, which is honestly up to chance, I've noticed. Aside from that, the vertical recoil is going to be on the pretty intense side. And aside from that, again, I also highly recommend crouching or going prone or mounting your machine gun as often as possible to mitigate that recoil substantially more. Something else I haven't talked about much in the past is the weight of the weapon, and I feel that with machine guns, that is actually the weapon type that is going to matter most on, because essentially how weight works with a weapon is that it's going to affect how fast your stamina drains. And the reason stamina drain matters is because, especially with machine guns, I imagine most of you will be sprinting as often as possible since you are already moving slower by default with a reduced sprint factor at 50% instead of 100% like most other weapons. Not only will stamina drain affect how often you can sprint, it also affects the steadiness of your weapon when aiming. And when you consider machine guns the most unwieldy weapon type in the game as far as recoil is concerned, having your weapon as steady as possible is something that you basically want to do as much as you can. And using the Mg42 as a direct competitor, that one is weighing in at 14.4 kilograms in comparison to the Mg81, which is only weighing in at a mere 9.1 kilograms. So you could say that the Mg81 is better for the more mobile player who likes to run around, or basically for anybody who is on the attacking side of an invasion or assault or destruction game. You could say that the Mg81 will be better, whereas the Mg42 will be more acclimated to holding down a building or playing a more defensive role, if that makes any sense. In this next section, I would like to transition and talk about how it feels using the weapon going from base level all the way to 1 to 2 to 3 stars fully upgraded. And as a little sidebar, I would like to mention that all of these upgrades are either overkill or something that is severely needed for the gun. So it does actually make me very happy to see that, every time I spend some extra silver on this weapon, it is getting a pretty considerable bump as far as overall effectiveness is concerned. But anyways, at 1 star, the first thing you're going to get is a 15% reduction to your reload time, which is amazing to have as a first upgrade, which is going to be very cheap. But anyways, that takes you down from 5.4 seconds per reload all the way to 4.6. A very noticeable difference if I do say so myself, and cost even less silver once you unlock the discount upgrades, again for the corresponding squad that is associated with the weapon. So again, won't be much of a financial strain on you to get at least a better reload speed. Once you hit 2 stars, you will get a 10% bonus to your fire rate, taking you from 1600 rounds per minute to 1760, which I mean is a little absurd and harkens back to what I was saying earlier about this weapon only having 100 bullets per reload. And flying through that very quickly, this basically exacerbates the issue and makes it even more important for you to shoot and burst and pay attention to your ammo count, lest you'll be reloading more often than you need to. But on the bright side, you do get a faster TTK if somebody is right in your face at close range, but I would imagine it would be pretty unnoticeable as far as like overall effectiveness change in the gun. Once you get to 3 stars, you will then be rewarded with a 10% bonus to your hit power, which is kinda overkill, but I don't necessarily mind it because you do lose a smidge of your damage at range. So essentially what this hit power bonus will do is that it will basically make it easier for you to drop opponents even if they are pretty far. You just gotta hit them with like 1 or 2 of your bullets. But the more notable thing in the 3-star upgrade is going to be the shot deviation reduction by 15%, which doing the math will bring you from 55 down to 47, which will be much in line with the Mg42, which is at 48 for the shot deviation at base level anyways. So a nice little bonus there, basically making this weapon a little less unwieldy or more predictable as far as where your bullets will go and the cone is concerned. In regard to the iron sights on this weapon, this is basically kind of like a take it or leave it kind of thing for me. Essentially, it boils down to this being a very simplistic 2 large post sight to help you line up your target, which I imagine most will appreciate at varying degrees depending on how close the target actually is to you. Like up close is great, nice and open and easily allows me to snap from target to target, but once I get to medium or long range, that's where I notice it becomes a little harder to use, as the large and bulky post don't necessarily make it easier to have like a frame of reference where I'm aiming in comparison to like a Mg42 or even an Mg15. So that's just my personal opinion on that. They're great up close, kind of hard to use up far. So that being said, I would say they are average overall or sitting right in the middle. Overall though, I think this gun is a pretty valid addition to the game as it has enough stats to differentiate itself from its competitors in pretty meaningful ways on top of introducing a brand new niche to the BR5 German machine guns in general. I would consider this weapon to be an attacker friendly, lightweight, even faster firing version of an Mg82-100, where essentially you just have to be a little more skillful with your aim due to the worse iron sights and a little more vigilant with your ammo count since you will be running out of ammo a little bit faster. But at base level, I'm feeling a strong 6.5 to a weak 7, and once this weapon is fully upgraded, it could easily be a strong 8 or maybe even an 8.5, but that might be pushing it low key. At the end of the day, these are just my personal opinions, but I am more interested to know what you guys are thinking down there in the comment section. What would you guys rate this weapon on a scale of 1 to 10, and do you have any particular ways that you like to use it? Let me know, and while you're down there, don't forget to aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. Help you find better teammates, improve your skill-based matchmaking, and yeah, do appreciate you guys very much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Black Guy out.